You know, it has been historically known that when a partner uses divorce as a threat in an argument, it's generally a way of control, it's a way of manipulation. But when you have two people in a relationship and they are both throwing the threat of divorce, I mean, that's where things get even more interesting, because therefore it means that they're both playing the same game, tick for tack. They're both trying to manipulate each other by making the other one afraid of divorce if the other one does not then behave. But of course, when they're both throwing it at each other, it means at some point one of them has to mean it. Now, of course, at this moment in time, we saw at the tail that Jovi obviously came out and Andre exposed the fact that Jovi was even considering going to a divorce lawyer to get some advice regarding his relationship and what would happen, of course, if he was to walk away from Yara. Now, of course, at the same time, Jovi did confirm that he did not go and see the divorce lawyer, so that meant clearly when he said what he said to Andre in private, he was obviously saying it, I guess, out of frustration. And the sad thing about it is that it's one thing if you're both privately threatening each other, but then when you now start to tell other people that, hey, I'm actually considering divorce, that's when you start to really think, is this serious? So of course, when he obviously decided to open up and tell Andre this information, that can really then expose that maybe Jovi really and truly is thinking about the divorce aspect. So now we are in a position where I've come across an article, and this article talks about the fact that Jovi and Yara may actually finally begin divorce, but then there's a twist. The twist is that Joey's mum, Gwen, decides to actually get involved and have her say on the whole divorce saga. Now, what we're going to do is, first and foremost, we're going to quickly head over to the article itself in particular here, as you can see, and it says 90 Day Fiancé Yara and Jovi are finally getting a divorce. At least, obviously, that's what it says with a question mark, which obviously means that it's not 100%, it's a question, right? And of course, it does say here that this is not the first time the divorce word came between the 90 Day stars Yara and Jovi. There have been several instances when these two have been surrounded by divorce rumors, but every time this couple bounced back stronger than ever and gave happily ever after goals to the world. So of course, we know that when it comes to this couple, this is not the first time. But to be honest with you, can you really say that each time they have this divorce situation, they really do bounce back stronger than before? Because if they did, then why would they always go back to the past by always bringing up, oh, I'm going to divorce you? So really and truly, it doesn't tell me that the couple has bounced back stronger. It tells me that each time things get a little bit all they've got to do is threaten each other with this little information, and then that's what happens. Like, that's not a healthy situation, folks. You know what I mean? A stronger relationship does not involve threatening your partner. It involves having conversations of how you can obviously do better and obviously help each other move forward. Now, of course, it continues by saying, but it seems that the script has been completely flipped. Yara and Jovi are facing some serious marital issues, and it seems that they are finally parting ways. Viewers noticed many shocking hints further added to the narrative. What is this all about? What did they do? Now, listen, this is obviously why we're here, and of course, stuff in particular, it does go on here, where it does say that Jovi threatened to divorce Yara every time he got drunk. Now, this is something that definitely has to be highlighted. Is this now saying that Jovi is somebody that cannot handle his drink? Because here's the thing, no partner deserves to be with somebody that's going to threaten them each time they drink. Because if we really think about it, when it comes to some couples, when it comes to domestics, some domestic things happen because the partner is drinking, and when they drink, they become either verbally abusive or sometimes become physically abusive. Now, of course, that's not the case with Jovi and Yara. There's definitely no physical abuse in any shape or form. But when it comes to the verbal thing, well, look at it this way: if he's happy to threaten with divorce in these situations when he is obviously under the influence, bear in mind, behind the camera, when the camera's off, Lord knows what potential abusive language he may be using towards her when he's obviously threatening her. Now, of course, when it comes to Yara threatening him, that's something that we have very little information about, because we only really heard Jovi say that Yara and I both threaten each other. We never actually heard Yara say that she does it herself, and therefore we don't really know what actually puts Yara in a position to actually say to Jovi, hey, I want a divorce. Do you see what I'm saying? And also on top of that, to be honest with you, for all we could know is what could happen is that each time these two have a fallout and Jovi decides to threaten a divorce, maybe Yara defensively responds by saying, okay, well, I'll divorce you too. Maybe that's where she comes into place, which, to be fair, means that I guess she's kind of not in the wrong for having that type of reaction. But really and truly, we have to be careful when it comes to people who drink and then become abusive in some format when they drink, because that is not healthy. That's the kind of person that you really truly don't want to be around. And the fact that they have a child, I really hope that whenever these two have these clashes, it is definitely never ever 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 in front of Milo, because if it was, that then makes things even worse. Now, of course, it does say here that Happily Ever After exposed Jovi and Yara's true relationship. Andre even accused Jovi of wanting a divorce from Yara, which is, of course, something that I spoke about earlier on in this video, okay? Now, of course, it does say that Jovi had a divorce in mind, and this came out every time he was not in his senses. But here comes the most shocking part. Apparently, Yara's expression spoke volumes about the truth. She gave her husband a look. Now, of course, that's something that we did see at the tell-all. Now, also on top of that, here obviously is where the question is that Jovi and Yara are no longer together. That is the question. 9-Day viewers have watched Jovi and Yara butting heads several times on the show. They have had some serious issues with like having a second baby. Of course, Jovi wants another baby, Yara doesn't. And a dead bedroom life, which of course Yara has obviously said that when it comes to Jovi, all he ever wants to do is have a quickie rather than actually give us some actual romance or some actual passion when it comes to the bedroom. And that's something that they did obviously speak about in The Last Resort, which who knows whether or not that is improved or not. But of course, it continues by saying the couple actually dealt with all of that, and they're going strong until Happily Ever After's current season, okay? I believe it that Jovi and Yara could be getting a divorce. The show 90 Day, The Last Resort, is cursed. 99% of the couples who've been on it either divorce or separate later, which, to be fair, that is kind of true, but kind of not, because sometimes some of the couples that do go on The Last Resort actually already broken up. For example, when they had Kelly and Molly, them two already broken up anyway. I guess they were going there to get closure and to really find out what really went wrong. And then also on top of that, I believe when it came to Beniam and Ari, they were pretty much already on their last legs anyway. So I understand obviously what they're saying, but of course we then obviously that Angela Michael was a part of it, who of course did end up breaking up since then, which doesn't make sense. We had Sophie and Rob, but also broke up obviously since then. But then again, we can argue that maybe them two were already broken up anyway. Then we had Jasmine and Gino, of course, who obviously now separated as well. So to be fair, there is a lot of good point. To be fair, like I said, there is an element of truth behind this statement, to be fair with you. And we can say that from my memory, the only couples that have come out of it and that are still actually together will be Jovi and Yara, Brandon and Julia. Obviously, they've now got a kid. Obviously, we saw Natalie and Josh, who obviously were pretty much already broken up anyway, so that's another one. Stacey and Florin, but obviously right now there is that conversation of Stacey and Florin potentially being on their last legs as well, so it does expose that. So to be fair with you, there is actually a whole lot more truth behind this statement than the more I think about it. So to be fair, you never know, Jovi and Yara may be that next couple on the list to actually go their separate ways. Obviously Jude and Brandon obviously will not be, because they've now recently had a baby, so they're obviously going to be together for the foreseeable. Hopefully they'll be together obviously for the long haul rather than the short haul, because obviously, you know, they got a baby and we really hope that it makes their relationship work, even though having a child isn't supposed to be a reason your relationship should work. But anyway, that part. Now, of course, it does say here that a Reddit thread pointed out the possibility of Yara and Jovi getting a divorce. This is because it's been a month since the two have posted anything together. They are only sharing pictures with their daughter, and their better half is missing. Moreover, a user pointed out that Yara's stories have been featuring a brand new apartment which didn't show any signs of Jovi's presence in it. This further added to the narrative that perhaps these two were no longer together. On the other hand, the OP believes that the Last Resort spin-off is actually cursed, which is obviously something that we spoke about above. And then also on top of it, it does say admin all of this, fans believe that Yara is emotionally hurt this time. All the comments that Jovi made about her appearance have clearly affected her a lot, and she even cried on camera because of it. Moreover, the way Jovi's drinking problem and strip club addiction are getting out of his hands, Yara evidently wouldn't be loving it. And of course, we do know that in The Last Resort, one of the issues that Yara had with Jovi was the fact that he loves to be in strip clubs. And more importantly, in that season, he actually went to a strip club with strippers he already knows as well, which again wasn't exactly a good look. And Yara did express that she gets all of this work done so she can keep looking good for her husband and attractive for her husband. So therefore, she gets the compliments that she obviously wants, the compliments that obviously go into cater to her own trauma. So of course, for Jovi to come out and say anything that would make her feel like he doesn't like the way she looks, that is obviously why she can easily be triggered with his obviously comments regarding herself, which of course then does say, is Jovi really sensitive or aware to the fact that his wife does all these things to look good for him? and therefore he needs to be more complimentary rather than be the opposite of that. But then again, we can also argue and say that really and truly Yara should have really, but then we can argue and say that, but this is kind of separate to the relationship because Yara already had these insecurities prior to Jovi's existence. But then again, at the same time, if we've got traumas of this type, usually we want to be with somebody that's obviously going to make sure that they always make us feel good rather than make us feel like the people in our past, obviously that being Yara's family, who obviously made her feel like absolute crap beforehand. So of course she's going to want a partner that's going to make her feel great. So to be fair, it does make a sense why she would obviously be so sensitive to anything that he does say. Now of course, this is obviously what's going on here. This is obviously what this article had to say. Obviously it doesn't say that these two are divorced or are actually getting a divorce. This article is pretty much just reminding every single one of us of every single crack that has gone wrong in their relationship and why divorce is something that is feeling more real than ever. But like I said, then Jovi's mum decided to get involved, and this is what she had to say as a response to this article. Don't you just love when people do these kind of posts just to get those views? And then she puts down, at least they use a nice picture of them. So this is obviously Jovi's mum coming out to say that, yeah, this is utter BS. These two are not on a way, they are not on the path of a divorce. Which, listen, I guess in some ways that is a good thing because obviously, they are a good couple for the most part. But at the same time, if Jovi is somebody that when he drinks, he can't handle his liquor and he behaves in this way, then really and truly, Yara should really start thinking about what's better for herself and also what's better for Mila. Is it better for herself to continue a relationship with somebody that becomes abusive when he drinks, which isn't a good thing, and is good for her to have a man around her, their daughter, who also is going to display this type of attitude that may influence obviously how Mila is going to obviously see her father, if that makes any sense. Now, of course, there is no evidence at all that says that he ever behaves like this in front of his child, which I doubt he does anyway. But here's the thing. You can only hide a certain part for you. You can only hide a certain part of you for so long until people finally see it for themselves. So really and truly, I would say more than ever, Jovi should probably get this whole drinking thing under control before one day it actually does affect his child as well, because that would absolutely suck. Yeah. Well, and also to be honest with you, maybe Gwen should also check in on her son and say, hey, son, we need to have a conversation. And you know what they say though sometimes? They say that when you drink, the truth comes out. So whatever Jovi says when he's drunk, maybe it's the truth. Maybe he does generally want a divorce. Maybe he generally doesn't want to be with Yara anymore. Maybe he generally is only still with her purely because they have a child together. And maybe he's with her because he doesn't want to have to start again and find someone else and then have a child again. People do stay in relationships for so many different reasons. But the matter of the fact is, this relationship here between Jovi and Yara, I mean, let me know your thoughts on it. Maybe we can talk about it. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace.